and again, my argument is the Cold War is probably the most important thing that's happening, and I think everything else is a reaction to it. I can be wrong about that. Other historians or other people might say that doesn't make any sense. Or they might say we have evidence to think that they were happening separately. I don't think that holds much water. I think really what we see in this is a reflection of everything that's happening here. And I'll start by making that point very quickly. So after World War II, again, I think World War II and the beginning of the Cold War had an effect on both of these things equally. Right? That this World War II and the catastrophe of World War II meant that we want to avoid World War II. Well, World War II also has an effect socially, economically, and politically. How does that happen? Well, during World War II, people saved a lot of money. On purpose, because they'd just been through the Great Depression, and because we were rationing during World War II, so people weren't allowed to spend. So by the time we get to 1945 and the European and Asian conflicts are done, right, people have a lot of money to spend. Right? And they begin spending. I don't know how much economics you know, but let me just give you the basics of economics. Economics works like this. Right? Everything's going well when people are spending money. Everything sucks when people don't. Okay. Quick example. If you wanted the price of gas to go down tomorrow, we could, as Americans, cut the price of gas in half instantly. Just like that. Do you know how? If everyone in America decided not to buy gas for a single day, right, the price would drop just like that. That quickly. Right? I don't know if you remember the Charlotte gas crisis of 2008. Do you guys have any memory of that? Mm-hmm. Like they thought we weren't going to get any gas because of Katrina, and so everyone went to the gas stations. And literally within the span of the time that I left school to the time I went to the gas station, the price had changed $2. Right? That just gives you an idea about economics. Okay? So if we are spending, the economy is good. We just have to go out and spend. If we don't, it sinks. The Depression was all about the psychology of people believing we cannot spend money, and the reality of 25% unemployment with people not having any money to spend. The post-World War II, post-Depression era is about people having lots of cash and being ready and willing to spend it. Okay? Now there are other things that happen as a result of World War II. Not just the fact that the economy is going upward. Right? And let me make one statement about that you may want to write down. This is the kind of thing that AP could ask. The post-World War II period, from 1945 to 1950, the United States became the country with the what's it called? What's the term called? Standard of living. Right. We had the greatest standard of living in the entire world. Do you know what standard of living refers to? And you know what standard of living refers to? It means that we have the most money per household. We have the most things per household. It's fairly simple. We have more things, more food, less poverty, less want than any country in the world. And that happens almost immediately after World War II. The United States rises to the top. And that's actually where we've maintained ourselves since then. We have the highest standard of living in the world. It's the reason that more people come here, cumulatively, than all people go to all other places. Right? You seem skeptical.
I thought Switzerland had the highest standard of living.
Switzerland. Is that even a country? All right. It's like a town. All right. So, let's talk about other results of World War II, right? So, the rising standard of living has everything to do with people saving money, but it also has to do with education, right? Why are you guys so interested in going to college? Why are you here taking notes? Your mom? This seems like a weird reason, but you're not going to get anything out of it?
She wants to college, and she's all like, "You're not going to college."
Well, why does your mom want you to go to college?
Because she went
Because she went to
to college.
college, that's it?
No. She wants to.
You just want to be able to walk around and say, hey, we both went to college.
We want a better life.
Ah, there we go. So we got beyond your problem with your mom, which sounds like it's deep-seated. You may want to see a counselor. I'm not trained in those sorts of things. But if you need to talk, very much like Oprah. All right, so look, you're in school now, you're taking notes, you're concerned about these exams, you're going to go to college, and it's all about that you know intuitively that a high school education, a college education, a master's degree, a doctoral degree, all those mean what? More
money.
Okay. Unless you're a teacher, and then it's, is that called inversely proportionate? What is that called? Any math people in here? What's that called?
Nobody likes that.
Nobody likes that? Okay. Alright. So look. So what happens in order to create all this spending? Well, part of it is this pent-up consumerism that it's not there during the war. The other part of it is that we have this thing called the GI Bill, which still exists, by the way. It's the best thing. I know most of you will not take advantage of it, but it is the best thing going. You know what the GI Bill does? Anybody know? I had a student one time that thought that was a person. GI Bill. Yeah, that's what she thought. Yeah. She works at Duke now. Can you believe that?
Is it a grant?
So, huh?
It's not a grant.
Yeah, it really is kind of like a grant. So the GI Bill says this: if you'll come serve in the military for 4 years, you can do it. If you go serve in the military for 4 years, they pay for your college. Every dime. You don't pay for one thing.
For 4 years.
4 years.
That's like you actually have to go and fight, or is it just?
Well, you know, not today. I mean, you just join, you do 4 years. You know, there's plenty of people.
What usually people in college?
Well, the nice thing about it, though, is that today, and I don't want to get into this too much because I know I'll get long-winded. I've gone through a half of a frame so far. So, the nice thing about it today is you can go and get work training. So they can teach you computer science and all kinds of technology things that you can then go back and reinforce in school. You already have work experience. So it's really nice. It doesn't mean you automatically go fight. In this instance, it usually meant you were fighting. But we have 2 million people flooding colleges. And this is an important point. How much is the Cold War affecting our culture? You think about it. You guys are, most of you are not even thinking about not going to college. Right? Most people think, I mean, even people at this school who are probably not going to college are thinking about, should I go to college? They know there's a kind of a cultural expectation, right, that college is an important thing. That wasn't true in the 1940s. I mean, the numbers play themselves out. Go look it up statistically. How many people are going to college in the 1940s versus the 2000s, right? But it becomes an expectation, right? Because what do we want to be? We want to be smarter, we want to be richer, we want to be better. Right? That's the American way, that's right. Now that's within the Cold War context. All these people, these GIs come back from fighting, they go to college, they master some subject, then, right? When does computer technology really take off? After World War II. Right? So, with money comes babies.
The more money you make.
Let's try to put this, there's actually a little mathematical formula here that we can think about in not a logical way, not a mathematical way. With money comes babies. Right? How many people in here are pregnant right now? None? Good. All right. You're pregnant? Yeah, I forgot on these. All right, just joking. That's a joke.
Ratchet.
It's a joke.
Stop saying ratchet.
I'm kidding. So we have no pregnancies in here right now. Is there a reason you're not having a baby right now? Let me ask you this question. Don't get into the technical aspects of that question. So let me it's embarrassing, isn't it? I love doing this. So, do you think you want to have children? Any girls in here want to have children someday? Want to have children? All right. Are you going to be like your mom and insist you go to college? Okay. I'll never be like my mom.
Just say now.
Right. So, you're right. You'll be exactly like your mom. Right. It's what happens. But your husband will never tell you that because he gets in trouble for doing it. All right. So, it's the worst thing a husband can say. I'm not like her. Take it back. Take it back. This is what I get off. Take it back. We're fighting. That's what my wife does. We're fighting. She announces it. There's a period. And if you ever meet my wife and you tell her this, I swear I'll kill you. Alright, so, plan on having kids? Okay, so let's just go ahead. Why don't you just get it started right now? I mean, you're young, you know. It'll ruin your life, having children? There's an explanation though, right? Why aren't you going to have kids now?
I don't have like the money to take
You can't support them, right? So here's what I mean. There are tribes in northern Africa, okay? They're nomadic tribes. You know what nomadic means?
Yeah.
They run.
They move around.
They move around from one place to another. She talking about pregnancy?
No, our resident Ethiopian.
North Africa. So you know there's nomadic tribes in northern Africa, right?
So back home.
That their population hasn't changed in hundreds of years. And there's a reason that they haven't changed. Why?
Well, for one, they move around a lot, so they can't like take the kid and just like walk around with the kid.
That's right. That's right. So what I'm saying to you is there's an anthropological reason for populations not growing. Nomadic tribes' populations don't grow not because the women can't get pregnant. It's because they don't. Because they can't support more children. Right? The baby boom, it's not an explosion of babies, right? That's not what it is. But what it is, right, the baby boom is evidence of the fact that Americans are rich. Right? It's evidence. Right? The idea that people have 2 babies, dog, pick a fence, rip car, all that kind of stuff, that sort of natural version of Americanism that we think about, that develops in the 1940s and 1950s because Americans are rich. We're educated. We have money. We're spending. We're growing. Okay? You're not having babies because you can't support them yet. Once you get to the point where you can, once you have a household, you have a job, you have an income, you have all these kinds of things, then you'll say, probably not to, you won't say, now I can have a baby. You'll just intuitively know it's okay now. Because I can support them. Well, this is why we have a baby boom. Americans can support babies. Now, I want to talk about the difference between supporting babies here and before. One of the things that a lot of students will bring up is they'll say, you know, but before that, people were having like 10, 12, 14 kids. Right? It was fairly natural for people to have lots and lots of children. Part of it was that child mortality was really low. So there were lots of lost children too, because medical practice wasn't very good, so you kept trying to have kids. The other part, though, was that children were what? Working. They didn't go off to school, they went out to the fields. A family was a working unit. Right? That changes in the 50s. Right? I want you to think about this mentality, and it's one that you have inherited. I think it's one of these strange things that we don't think about very much, but your entire sort of vision of what life is, right? Today's Friday, right?
Yes.
Hallelujah.
There we go. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. I didn't even have to do much to get that, elicit that response, right?
I have to work today.
We all love Friday. You're really sort of miserable right now.
I wish I had a
I
job.
think we should do just like a class group hug.
I don't like Fridays.
I
Don't
love
like my mom, I
Fridays.
don't like shut up? I haven't gone.
Don't believe that.
Okay, good. All right.
It's on me.
So look. All right. Sorry. All right. So we love Friday, right?
Yes.
All right. Do you know what the greatest day is in life? Is when you wake up and you peel back the window and you see snow falling heavily. Isn't that the best day?
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be in school. Like if it's a
Oh, yes.
Monday, you're just like,
Yes.
there is a God. And, you know, you just. So this is what I mean. That is a kind of an American cultural mentality that has only developed in the last 50 or 60 years. Right? It wasn't the case that kids like my grandfather who worked on a farm in the 19-teens and 1920s, he didn't think about leisure time. Weekends didn't mean anything. It wasn't like, thank God it's Friday. He was still doing the same thing on Saturday. Right? That's not the mentality. Our mentality now is mine, right? A Generation Xer, and I can't remember what your generation's called. It's Generation Y, and then you're a new generation. I can't remember what you're not Generation Y, are you?
Now you are, 1995.
Okay, you're Generation Y.
And then the next one.
So Generation X and Generation Y have this very similar pattern. We, as individuals, we are seeking leisure time. We want to have fun more than anything else. If we're going to work, we want to know what does work do for us, not what do we do for work. Right? Do you know the number one question that young people ask when they go to interviews these days? How much vacation time do I get?
Oh, I say I
That's the number one question. When is my vacation?
Yeah, that's how much money you make. Cool.
Well, money is important. I think it probably is the second most important, but this is what we're hearing is that that's us now. And I really want you to think about it in the context of the Cold War. The Cold War changes everything. My grandfathers had my mom and dad, and their whole vision of what their lives should be was different than theirs. This is the first generation, the baby boom generation, where the adults are saying, we want their lives to be different. We want it to be fun. We want them to go to school. We want them to do all these kinds of things. We don't want them to have the burden of this. Depression, war. Right? So your mentality and my mentality, we've inherited, right, as a ripple effect of the World War II generation saying, we're going to come home and we're going to alter America. Now, they didn't say that collectively. They didn't have some meeting and say that. But that becomes the mentality. Cultures are really weird. They change in a strange way, but that's who we are. Right? And so the baby boom generation, the moving out to the suburbs, right? Getting a house, to pick a fence, get a dog, right? Mom stays at home, Dad has a black suit, goes off to work, drives in the car, right? The Mad Men kind of world, if you ever watch Mad Men.
Yeah.
The Truman Show.
That world, right, develops as a reaction to this. And that's why I say we put everything in a Cold War context. Right? Babies, money, college, leisure time, vacation. You know when the term vacation is used for the first time? Vacation was never used as a term. It becomes a term in the 1950s. The word vacation, the word teenager are not in the vocabulary.
So what do they call it?
Well, people didn't, they didn't call vacation because vacation is something that everyone can do. Right? The only people that had anything that would look like a vacation would be rich people. Have you ever been to Biltmore House? If you go to Biltmore House up in Asheville, okay, that was a summer home for the Vanderbilts. That was a summer retreat. So they would call it retreat or something like that. But nobody did. My grandfather didn't go on a retreat. Right? He fed chickens and dealt with the mules and crap his whole life. Because that's what he did. He worked all the time. That's all he knew was to work. Vacation becomes a part of the American lexicon once it's something that everyone can do. My grandfather was in World War II. Right? He drove a truck and picked up dead bodies. Right? He worked for a medical unit. When he comes home from World War II and has kids and moves into the suburbs, then we go to Disney World. Right? Everything changes. He didn't go to Disney World as a kid. There wasn't no damn such thing as Disney World. This is what I'm trying to tell you, is that Disney World is not just a phenomenon in and of itself. It's a phenomenon from this. You don't have a Disney World if you don't have people going to Disney World. I just want to build something and go, looks nice. Our work is done here. Time to get home. No. Right? You understand what I'm saying? Vacation comes into our lexicon when it's something that all of us can do. Our standard of living is up. Our view of our lives has changed. Teenager. Never used. Teenager doesn't describe someone in an age group. It describes a lifestyle. What is the teenager's lifestyle? What do? You go to school.
Go to school, I go to work, and I go home and sleep.
Hang out with my friends, right?
Stop saying slave.
Whatever you do. There are certain things teenagers do. Hang out with friends, right? If you have 20 or 30-year-olds that are doing the same thing as teenagers, you go, Teenager describes a lifestyle. So, our ideas begin to change. You listen to music, you watch television, you go to Disney World, right? This is a picture of the first McDonald's. This is the very first McDonald's. This is in Chicago. It was the first one. It was built in 1955.
Do they still have it?
I don't know if they do. I don't know. But the McDonald's originally was, and somebody said the term, you know what this is? It's a drive-in. Right? So in the 1950s, we built the highway system. And the highway system is actually a point I want to make too. Do you know why the highway system was built? No, not so you could get there. Okay, so the highway system, if you look at a map, this is the United States. Do not make fun of my artwork, please. Here's Canada. This is Moose. All right. So I suck. Just don't say it. Okay. So the highway system is built like this. I mean, they have to move around because there's mountains and crap. It's built like this. Why is it built? Transport what?
Transport people. Supplies.
Military. The highways were built so that we can move our military from any place to another place quicker. If you pay attention when you're on 85 or 77, watch how many times you are kind of going around curves and then you hit a long straight stretch. Do you know what the long straight stretch is for? Landing a plane. Right. They were built wide and big so that you can move the military in case there is an attack in any region from one place to another. All of this stuff fits within a Cold War context. Now think about the consequence of building highways. Now it's for a Cold War reason, but we use them. So what develops once you have highways? Automobile industry. Right? When's the automobile industry at its peak? The golden age of the automobile industry is the 50s and 60s. Right? And if you have cars, you can have drive-ins and vacation. Yes, that's right. No, you're fine. You're good. Right? If you have cars, here's what you can do if you have a car. You can move out of the city to the suburbs, where you just hear the birds chirping. Right? If you have a car, you can go to Disneyland. If you have a car, you can go to drive-in. Now think about how many things around the car culture develop. Right? Do you have hotels and motels if you don't have a car? No. Everything changes. Once you have the highways, you have the developing of this culture. Right? And the teenage culture. Watching TV, listening to music, which has now become the adult culture. Right. I'm going to come back to the Civil Rights Movement. But I do want to mention one thing. Now this is my argument, and so you'll just have to realize it's my argument, but a lot of people believe that you'll hear this from time to time if you study history, you'll hear that the 50s was the age of conformity, is what they always call it, and that the 60s was the age of the counterculture. I think that's lacking in intelligence. The 50s was an age where perhaps the people in authority wanted there to be conformity. The McCarthyists who were interested in the Red Scare, business people who wore the same kind of suits. If you watch Mad Men, you'll see that they all wear the black suit, black tie, and all that other kind of stuff. There was a sort of measure of conformity in America, but let's be honest about it. Is there a measure of conformity in America today? Yeah, there always is. There's a style where you wear your hair. There's a style the way you dress. There's this kind of phone that you're supposed to have. Blah, 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 blah. That's what we do. Conformity is not new. Right? Conformity has been around since there have been clothing and everything else. I would